English and English.
Stuck in.
That's so cute.
You can't be outdone, can you?
What's that?
With your buddy there?
To my passport?
No. Shane.
Oh, yeah.
We're live.
Not yet.
Yes.
We're live, but we got just another few seconds.
Is it not on?
What are these?
Speaker.
Dave, do you want your?
These are something new.
No, it's for this. That's for this the sound for.
Dave, do you want your mic?
Yes. Because I turned it on. Once I figured out what it's like. About links to this? Yes. It's just an external switch for that kids the comments on this.
Got quiet, didn't it?
Curious if there's audio.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's 6 p.m., so we'll call the meeting to order for the Upson County Board of Commissioners for Tuesday, July 27th. If you would at this time, please rise for invocation, followed by our pledge, and I guess I'll take care of it. You bow. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight. We ask that you bless this assembly. We ask that you provide us with the leadership and the guidance that we need to make decisions that are in the best interest of our community. We ask that you bless those that are serving this country at home and abroad, and we ask that you continue to bless this community. All this we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. First on the agenda is a public hearing. Public hearing for a beer and wine package sales license for Linden on behalf of 6456 Crest Highway, located at 6456 Crest Highway. Is there a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. No one here is signed to speak on the hearing. Jason, do we know if the applicant's going to speak? Or?
I don't believe so. Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. So we have no comments. So at this point, we'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. The public hearing is closed. So with that, let's see.
Chairman Allen, the request for from this applicant, the board has seen this before, and just as a reminder, shortly before we entered into a moratorium on these, which is now expired, staff had made a recommendation to deny this request based on a zoning irregularity, where this is a commercial zoning. There was also a part of the property that was being used as a residence, at least according to further investigation and to frequent visits from the planning office. That issue has been resolved, and I want to say that the last inspection of the property was done, and it's in your packet. I think it was in mid-June of this year. There were any further irregularities, and it did pass the building inspection. So at this point, staff is comfortable recommending approval for this license application.
Okay. So you have a recommendation for staff for approval. Is there a motion on this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion we approve the beer and wine license for get the correct address here.
Okay.
6456 Crest Highway, Thomaston, Georgia.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, I have a motion to approve the beer and wine license for 6456 Crest Highway. Call for a vote.
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Who's smiling at me? Chairman Allen?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, moving along. Next are public comments. And we don't have any. So we'll move along. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. On the consent, you have your July 13th regular meeting minutes, the acceptance of the June 2021 financials, and approve the reimbursement request from the IDA for new signage at the Central Georgia Business and Technology Park to a dollar amount of $42,987.48. Is there a motion on the consent?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion made and seconded on the consent. Jason, we'll just call for a vote.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
I wasn't here for the July 13th meeting, so I'll abstain.
Okay.
All right, moving along, new business. Discussion and possible consideration of the banking RFP, something that we've been working on for quite some time.
Mr. Chairman, if you wouldn't mind, I will. We do have a few people here to speak on behalf of staff's recommendation and in the work that went into this. But the board set this as a priority really at the beginning of this year. As you may remember, we drafted an RFP. It went out early this year. We were in conversations with 6 different financial institutions that ultimately decided to bring forth a proposal. I'm thinking about staff time reviewing each of those proposals and conducting in-person and virtual interviews. There's probably 50, 60 hours of staff time in this one review, plus Davenport's time. But we think that the good news is we got a number of incredibly good proposals. So what took the process a little longer was vetting through the high quality of some of the submissions. So it was really a good problem to have, but we think that we're prepared to make a recommendation to the board on how we move forward. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Ricardo, who's going to go over the details of the process. He worked with our staff, myself, Alan, Ellen, Angie, to come up with the packet that you eventually got distributed to you just a minute ago. But Ricardo will walk you through the steps. We'll all do the best job we can trying to help the board understand what the rationale is for the recommendation, and then of course answer any questions the board has.
It's good to see you again, Ricardo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hope you've been doing well. So
Doing well. Kids are healthy, and the wife hasn't thrown me out, so all is good in the world.
Roger that. So as the local media has requested, just if you're speaking, make sure that you're
Going that way, well, sir.
Yeah, there you go.
I can do this. Yeah, so as first of all, Mr. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, staff, as Mr. Tinsley stated, this process has been almost a year. We started this last year with the discussion. That was preliminary beginnings to understand what was out there in the banking world. It has been quite a while since Upson County had looked at possibly consolidating their business with one bank. They've been doing business with several banks at the time. Staff became involved, as Mr. Tinsley said, staff led by Mr. Salter. We put together lots of hours to put together a request for proposal. Yes, 6 banks did respond, but the response went out to probably about 15 banks. There were certain requirements that had to be met. Some banks could not meet them. The banks that we did receive proposals for, we feel very strongly that they did a very good job. Some were local, some were not. Again, what we wanted to do, and from the government overview, something that we do want to touch on is what's important in the banking side for any county or city, and it's the treasury services. That's basically how you're paying people, how you're getting paid, how you're paying people. The merchant services, purchasing cards, the merchant services of how someone can pay their bill at the water and sewer. And then certainly the platform for online banking, extremely important. That is really one of the things that made us really focus, especially staff. And again, I have to thank Ms. Harris, Ms. Fuentes, Ms. Jones, who were very, very instrumental in selecting what was important to them. And again, each of them had their own thoughts of what they needed to do. And again, led by Mr. Salter, we went through this process. But again, online banking was very, very important. So if, Alan, if you can move to the second. So here are some of the requirements that Upson County, as we got together, started to look at. And again, as you see here, online banking platform was extremely important. A dedicated team. Who was going to be working with you all? So treasury services, very important. Most banks have treasury services. But another thing that was important to us is the government personnel. Who was there, who was important, and who had already a lot of experience with dealing with counties and cities. Government banking experience, again, working in the scope of the area of the state of Georgia, who had good clients, good experience with, again, banking counties such as yourselves. Security features, again, you hear this all the time. You have issues with hacking and so forth, and so it is very important, because you're stewards of everyone's money, that the security features were important. Finally, again, collateralizing the county funds, again, very important. You're stewards of the money. Cash management services, really the treasury services, how you get paid, how they pay you. Implementation schedule, again, this is something very, very unique, where we're taking 4 different banks and we're going to consolidate to one. So there's the implementation schedule, the training of the individuals is going to be very, very important. And then finally, fees. Yes, fees are important. But most banks, again, the fees are very the same. It's just the perks that they give you to hopefully make you focus on some of the things that they did give that other banks were not able to do. On technical banking services, again, this is some of the things that really, because Upson had kind of focused on these 4 banks and had not looked at a banking RFP in a while, a lot of things have changed technically. Things that would make you all much more efficient, better stewards of your money. And so we looked at them. Again, this was done clearly as a team effort with Mr. Tinsley, Mr. Salter, their team, and then Davenport and our team. And so we looked at ACH positive pay, we looked at purchasing card management, how they manage that, virtual payments, very important to some of the staff members on how to pay without checks. Let's not use checks. Let's not have to spend the money for checks and allow the manpower to go down, because you're now doing this virtually. Merchant card services, imaging, again, being able to not have to have files of reams of paper, but it's more importantly to have images. Electronic accounts payable, and the remote vault deposits, and then finally lockbox, something that we did discuss whether or not the county will use that. That's, again, during the implementation schedule, and again, led by Mr. Salter and his team. So with that, we, as I stated, we put out an RFP February of 2021, probably 6 months in the making of this bank RFP, taking into account everything that was important with the Upson County, looking at what best practices are, what things that we've done with other counties, using some of our information, putting down an RFP, but again, focusing on what was important to Upson County. And we sent that out. We received 6 bids from about 15 proposals that we put out there. As you can see here, this is kind of a matrix of it kind of at 30,000 feet overview of what was important. Compliance with the bank RFP, the scope of work, your inclusion of pro forma set forth in the RFP, the ability for the respondents and its staff to meet the needs of the county. And those are wide. It's your training, it's your implementation, it's being able to consolidate your banking into one bank. The capacity to provide the highest quality and breadth of services, and basically for most cost-effective price. Again, pricing we can't ignore, but again, that is the least of the features. It's really the online platform, the other services, the staff that are able to be provided. And as you can see there, and I won't read through them, but we had several local banks. We had outside of the county, we had regional banks, all of them very interested in trying to do business with the county because they know that it is a good client to have, like many of the other counties here in the state of Georgia. So as you see there, what we did here with staff is we wanted to make sure that we were able to select who we wanted for oral interviews. And this process here was very time consuming because even though we told the banks, please let's keep this 30 pages, we had proposals over 60, 70, a lot of superfluous things, a lot of things that they just wanted us to know about that we really didn't care about. We wanted to focus on what was important to the county. And so we had to go through all that. Staff went through it. We put together what we thought was the best banks to come to the second step. The second step was an oral interview. And there you have the staff that was going to be involved with the implementation. You have an online platform that was going to be taking place. We had a demonstration. Each of the banks there had to give a full demonstration. It was about a 2-hour process. And they brought everyone. They brought their treasury management people, they brought their government people, they brought their A team. And that A team is the same team that, because we asked this question, is that the team we're seeing on Zoom is the team that's going to take care of Upson County? And the answer was yes. So as you see there, we selected Chase, Southcrest, Synovus, and US Bank to be the oral presenters for us. So we went through that process, and again, much more tedious and specific process that we had to do for the selection of the banking relationship. So as you see here, this was led by Mr. Salter and his team. No one's going to know what they need better than the finance department. And so as they walked through that, they saw and evaluated each of the proposals and their abilities to perform the scope of work. And the scope of work was intensive, but as you saw on that slide number 2, those were kind of some of the important things that we wanted to do. And then who could provide, again, the service at the most effective price. We chose, as I stated, 4 banks to do the oral presentation, and we walked through the most important parts. Again, online platform, merchant services, credit card services, and again, we requested that they have the team members involved. Again, the oral interviews appointed 2 of the firms that we discussed, and that was both US Bank and Synovus Bank were the 2 selected. There, the committee, and again, this was the committee of the finance team, led by Mr. Salter, they basically did a numeric matrix to select who they felt of the 2. And again, these were 2 extremely close, very good banks. The team selected Synovus Bank as their finalists. And so if you flip over, please, Alan, to the next, the rationale, again, from the committee is that the platform, again, this is the most important part. It is how your staff will interact with the new bank and the ability to help its constituents here in the county do what they need to do, less man hours. And so their platform of Gateway provided the best alternative to meet all the county's needs based on really almost all total capabilities to access the banking features. Again, their P card, it was very important, called AP Solutions, was basically able to interface and do data storage and remote login features, which allowed, again, your staff. And what we're trying to do here is lower their man hours because again, banking is only a little piece of what your staff has to deal with every single day. And so what Mr. Tinsley and Mr. Stelter wanted to do is try to lower those man hours so that they could become more innovation in the banking side of it. Again, strong experience. They had very strong experience with Georgia clients. So again, Bullock County, Peach County, cities of Chamblee and Canton, and we are financial advisors of some of these, but they had others that we were not, and we did all the reference background checks on all the banks, and And to a client, they really did like the way that the implementation went with Synovus and how they moved forward after the implementation was done and the training. So again, fees, and I'm not belittling fees, I just want to make sure that everyone understands that that is an important piece, but it's how your staff will be able to interface with the new bank. Again, management fees waived for 6 months, treasury setup fees and implementation fees waived completely. Line items, so that's the pro forma, you know, it costs 10 cents for this and it costs 15 cents for that. Basically, that's guaranteed for 5 years. They will not change those fees for the length of the contract for 5 years. The interest on any unused balances will be 20 basis points. ECR basically is what a bank will do in order for you to have literally no fees. So you give them X amount of dollars, and at 35 basis points, you literally you pay for your own whatever fees that may be there. And again, the interest for any unused fees is 20 basis points. Again, you get a free scanner, and they gave $1,000 of annual credit for supplies. So whatever the county needs in banking supplies, it's $1,000, and basically that will be every year annually will be re-upped again. So with that, I will answer any questions on the process, on the banks, and I'm open to any sort of questions that the board and chairman may have.
Okay, so first one, and it's a very important question. So all local banks were personally contacted.
They were personally contacted by my staff. Yes, sir, absolutely. We let them know prior to letting them know that that an RFP was coming out for Upson County.
Okay. And of that, we only had really only the one.
Well, no, we had well,
Yeah.
Colony Bank, I guess, is really not a local bank anymore. So yeah.
Mr. Chim, the other thing that added a little bit of complexity is that I guess Colony Bank started as a local, but they closed their branch during the process. And then further on in the process, Southcrest was acquired by Colony Bank. And that added a lot of complexity to the oral interviews because we were really excited about Southcrest's proposal. But when we got right down to it, it was, I just didn't think they knew where they were at that point. In the end, I don't think it would have mattered as much because the one that actually came to the surface, Synovus, and I'd like to go ahead and just give my 2 cents while I have the floor, if you don't mind. It's a single login for every single service that they provide. So anything merchant services related, credit card, P card, it's a totally integrated system. So the staff would only have to log in once and they would have access to literally every single piece of the banking pie that Ricardo mentioned in detail. And there was really only 2 providers in this, that and US Bank were the only 2 that had that they basically provided all the services in-house. Right. Some of the other banks had to bring on specific partners, and they were third-party providers, and it had to require additional logins, additional agreements, additional partnerships. So I would say, just to me, and it didn't say so in the presentation, but I did sit in on all the oral interviews, and I think what impressed me most about Synovus, well, first of all, they're a Georgia-based bank, U.S. Bank, as well as they did, they're not Georgia-based. But the team that we would keep for implementation and for the duration of the contract with them is the same team that presented to us, and all of their processes were totally integrated. So to me, that was what pushed them over the edge to make the final decision for Synovus. There were some other great proposers in there, but I feel very comfortable with where staff got on that.
And Mr. Chairman, if I can say, so we've done several of these, and it really depends on how much county manager and staff want to be involved. In some cases, we're like, here, go with it, you do what you want. I will say that both the county manager and the finance director and his staff were very involved in each step of the way. Decisions were made after a discussion period, and so that was very different than what usually we have to do with these bank proposals. So I thought that was good because that way they were focused on what was really the most important thing for the county.
And if y'all indulge me, one more question. This is for Alan. Alan, so, I know you haven't been here that long, but you've been with us for a while, if that makes sense. So, we started this conversation pre-Jason, about this because we felt like there was, we weren't sure, if it was really, in the county's best interest. I mean, because, over time, our banking had just kind of morphed from occurrences over the years. We kind of spread everything out. What is this going to mean to you and your staff to have it consolidated? Because, quite frankly, this is going to come as a cost to the community. There's going to be a perception. Here we are. It may be a Georgia bank, but they're not a local bank. But, what does this mean to you and your staff? And more importantly, from your perspective, what is it going to mean to the taxpayer?
Well, I think, although it was not quantified, it improved our efficiency greatly. And we do, as Ricardo referred to or mentioned a few times, we have a whole lot that we do on a daily basis besides just banking activity or banking transactions. We have a lot of, obviously, vendors. Accounts payable is a big function of what we do within our department. So giving us a greater advantage as far as electronic banking and virtual payments. We already have a purchase card program, but we will be able to utilize Synovus Bank's purchase card program. All of those things create greater efficiencies for us. It saves time and saves dollars in terms of man hours. And also enables us to be able to focus on bigger things that, the commissioners want us to do and accomplish for the county, for all the citizens. So it's a big improvement for us. Having as many banks as we do and all these different banking relationships is very inefficient from a time standpoint. And along with this, what we did not mention was, although we could have had it already to some extent, when we go with Synovus, we will be using remote capture. So we'll be scanning in check payments that come into us through water, through solid waste, or to any other department. We'll be scanning those checks in with the scanning devices so the deposits will be credited into our account.
Will that be all offices, all county offices? Or is it just going to be
Not
the
all
offices
offices
that
will have.
report to the board? I mean,
These are only the board's accounts, yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know with respect to, perhaps recreation.
Yeah, this would include recreation.
Yeah, this would include recreation. Squirrel Bluff.
And I'd like to add, any of the constitutional offices or the authorities would easily be able to convert if they felt like this was an advantage. So we did offer it to the authorities to be included in the RFP, but none of them wanted to participate, but they would still be able to convert over at such time as if they felt like it was an advantage to them. So.
Gentlemen?
Did the homework.
Man, they only got no questions and they did their homework.
That's right.
I had one question, but it was answered by Jason.
Okay.
I was curious how the acquisition of South Crest from Colony affected that overall proposal. And it sounded like that kind of hurt South Crest's proposal in the end.
Yeah, well, I mean, just to be fair, I don't think it helped because Colony's proposal was not great. The Southcrest staff, their presentation was actually very good. Now, they weren't able to do an online, I don't think they did an online demo with us.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. And then, of course, when we inquired, I think it was so early in the merger when we interviewed them, they didn't really know which. They utilize a lot of third-party providers to do merchant services or credit card services. So Southcrest had those partners already established, but they didn't know if they were going to be staying with those partners when they moved over. Because they did say they were going to move over to the Colony platform eventually. which, so the platform that they would have shown us wouldn't have been the one we would have gotten anyway. So I think that did hurt somewhat. But we also knew from Colony's submission that they were really the lowest ranked submitter.
So Ricardo, I have a question for you then, because I had a conversation with one of the local banks. They called me and just wanted me to know that, you know, while they would like to have had the business, they wanted to try to explain to me why they were not, you know, going to submit a package. And one thing that struck me odd was the comment was made that well, let me just ask you this. From your perspective, is the current economy, did that limit the number of people that were applying for this? Because I was led to believe that, you know, that banks are really cash flush right now, that they really aren't going out and looking to build up, I guess, that deposits. And
so yeah, banks certainly have some issues with being flush, but again, Treasury Services is how they make their money, and it's a way in order for them, their commercial and business bankers, to be able to do other things. So sometimes these Treasury they want those accounts so that then their commercial lenders and their business bankers can do other things, whether it's with the actual commissioners or whether it's with the county and various different things that they would like to do. So no, we just finished Statesboro, the city of Statesboro, and we had about five banks. So we have not seen that with either Bullock or with Chamblee. We did not see any of that where there was not any folks that wanted to bid because of any sort of issue with the economy or with COVID or anything of that nature.
it was just that, you know, that they didn't need the cash today, and that in order to meet the requirements of the RFP may have required an investment in some technology that they currently didn't have.
Correct.
They just didn't have the need to pursue that at that point. So
It is quite frank with you, Mr. Chairman, the proposal requested that you had to have some very, very good innovative ways to do the online platform. And there are banks that have not invested as much as they should to do that. And there was some other request of merchant services and other things that may have led some banks, not only the local bank, but some other banks that are regional, who said, no, we're not going to do it because we don't have the innovation, we don't have the platform to help the county. So we've seen that not only here, but in Metro Atlanta and on the coast with Statesboro and Chatham. So we've seen the same thing happen.
you feel like we were, and this is for all three of you, I mean, do you feel like we were realistic in our RFP? We weren't asking too much, were we?
Absolutely. I mean, yes, absolutely. There was nothing there that any bank that wants to do business, again, wants to do business with the county. No, sir. I tell you that there was nothing there that was outside of the realm of what an RFP would be done for any county of your size or in the state of Georgia.
Mr. Chairman, I think one of the things that particular bank president might have been mentioning, and in my experience in Alan's job for 8 years, was that smaller banks had a difficult time with collateralization. And the smaller the bank is and the higher the government deposit is, the more complicated collateralizing the deposit is. So the difference between public money and private money is how they can invest the funds we have on deposit is controlled by state law. And it's much more restrictive than it would be with private dollars. And some smaller banks, not all, I mean, it just depends on the team they have in place, that have difficult times with collateralization.
What was the amount that we were requiring them to ballpark
Well,
for
state law is
collateralization?
110% collateralization. However, there's also a pool, which can be anywhere from only 25 to 75.
So for Upson County, that would have put down that.
So, well, obviously our deposits fluctuate
Yeah.
greatly throughout our, but we're talking, I mean, it could be as much as 12 million at any given time, and that would be on the higher end. and is what as low as less than half that. So as those balances ebb and flow, they're buying and selling securities to back our deposits, and that can be complicated for banks with smaller staffs. I mean, some small banks are wizards at it. I mean, it just depends. Every bank's different. So, yeah.
But the transition from the number of banks we have going to one bank, is it a fairly seamless transition?
Yes, and that's why one of the
It
reasons.
will be to us.
One of the reasons that we selected Synovus is because they did have that experience. And so, and again, Commissioner Wilder, not to say there won't be bumps, and you know, there always is bumps in anything transition that you do, but they had the experience and the training that staff was comfortable with.
Any other comments, questions? Well, gentlemen, you have the proposal, you have the staff's recommendation. I'll ask, is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go with the staff recommendation for Synovus.
Okay, I have a motion to, staff's recommendation to enter into an agreement with Synovus. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by Commissioner Ellington. Any further discussion? No further discussion. We have a motion made and seconded to enter into an agreement with Synovus Bank for our banking services. Jason?
Roll. Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
And Chairman Allen?
Yes. And Ricardo, I know there's been a lot of work on your company's behalf for us, and we appreciate you and Alan. And I know it was a piece of cake for you and everybody else. No, thank y'all. Thank y'all. We have an item that's on our dashboard that we can almost check off.
Yes. Implementation we'll move backwards a little before we move forward. So we do bank with a lot of different people.
So when do we anticipate beginning implementation?
That's really on staff because Synovus is ready to do whatever it needs to go through the
Alan?
process. So we have to go through some contracts, but I mean, we can, again, staff has other things going on and other implementations, so we want to make sure that we don't burden them with too much. So
Time is not really critical. Just the process is the most important part. So, you know, making sure that you guys get what you need. I don't know. So,
Maybe sometime in the fourth quarter, if not January timeframe, 2022.
you write that down.
No, don't.
Okay. Thank y'all so much. Okay, moving along. Discussion and approval of the 2021 SPLOSH ballot language. Jason.
So, Mr. Chairman, essentially what we're asking the board to consider tonight is, one, you've had a copy of the draft intergovernmental agreement for the proposed new SPLOSH project for quite some time. We did get a few questions. We've gone through some minor revisions. We've had 3 to 4 revisions, I believe, with City of Thomaston. But we've gotten the okay from them to move forward. We've got their language in here. So if you don't mind, there's 2 parts to this. There's a resolution and there's an intergovernmental agreement. And what the resolution does is authorize the chairman to execute from here on out things related to SPLOST all the way through the ballot process and the validation with the sign off of the county attorney. So it would require review from the county attorney and bond counsel, and then and the chairman's authorization. But let me, if you would, on the intergovernmental agreement, we're going to go to, I believe, what is called the first exhibit, Exhibit A. So Exhibit A reads as follows. The parties hereby agree that the estimated 2022 SPLOST collection of the $23,400,000 shall be divided as follows. $234,000 to be paid to Yatesville for use with capital projects set forth below, and we'll get into the table below, to be paid from the initial SPLOST collections before allocation to Upson County and to Thomaston is as set forth. As the board may remember, this is exactly the language that we used last time for the T-Splosh. So the first initial collection would take care of all of Yatesville's portion, and they would get the first portion of it. We would go ahead and pay them out. Under the current SPLOST, we're sending them very small amounts monthly, and it's time consuming for them, it's time consuming for us, and I think with the T-Splosh, I think they appreciated having their money up front, so we thought we would stick with that strategy here. Item B reads, further, after the above collections have been dispersed to Yatesville, the remaining estimated collection of $23,166,000 shall be divided with Upson County receiving 64.6465% or $14.976 million, and Thomaston receiving 35.3535% or $8.190 million to be expended on capital projects set forth below. So we go right into the table, and the Upson County projects are as follows. Acquiring, constructing, improving county facilities, including judicial, administrative, civic, recreational, airport, and jail facilities. The allocation will be $11,451,000. Roads, streets, and bridges will be allocated $1,550,000. Vehicle procurement and replacement, including Sheriff's Department vehicles, will be $500,000. Machinery and heavy equipment for repairs and maintenance of roads, streets, bridges, and or other government facilities would be $610,000. Machinery and heavy equipment for repairs, maintenance of water and sewer facilities would be $615,000. And office equipment, IT, and communication and telecommunication upgrades would be $250,000, and that would be the county's total. And then following that, you'll see what Thomaston submitted. They have right-of-way for roads, streets, and bridges at $750,000. Water and sewer expansion, $2 million. Electrical system expansion, modernization, or improvements, $1.5 million. And acquisition, construction, modernization, and improvement of municipal-owned facilities, parks, vehicles, and equipment, $3.940, so $3,940,000. And then Yatesville's are as follows: water system upgrades, $121,680. Repaving and resurfacing of roads and bridges, $72,540. And recreational facilities improvements, including ballparks and pavilions, $39,780. So the accompanying resolution is titled as follows: a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Upson County, Georgia, approving and authorizing execution of an intergovernmental agreement among Upson County and certain municipalities of Upson County concerning a county 1% sales and use tax as authorized by Part 1, Article 3, Chapter 8 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated, and for other purposes. So essentially, what we're asking the board to consider and approve tonight is approval of this resolution to then allow the chairman to execute the attached intergovernmental agreement. That intergovernmental agreement, if approved and executed tonight, would then go to the city of Thomaston for approval, and then the city of Yatesville for approval. Then it would require the Board of Commissioners at that point, at the August 10th meeting, to approve the call for the election. And the other municipalities and the county will have had to approve this first.
So the language that'll be on the ballot will be presented to us at the August meeting. That's what we'll be approving to send to the Board of Elections to put it on there.
That's correct. And I think we already have a copy of that. If the board would like to see that in advance, we'll go ahead and get that to you as well.
But we're not bound to that just yet. I mean, I don't suspect there'll be any changes to that language on the ballot, but.
No, and your point's pretty valid, well taken. I think what we need to do is we need to go ahead and circulate that tomorrow, and then if you have any questions or concerns about that way that reads, then we still have plenty of time to work with bond counsel to make sure it's accurate.
So what we have here is we need two motions, two votes. Well, two votes. One on the approval of the intergovernmental agreement, and then the other would be on the resolution, correct? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the, it only will require a vote of the resolution, because then therefore it's authorizing you to execute it, so.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
With, it does say in the resolution with approval from council as well. Because even though I presented that in the best way I know how, it's really the county attorney's office and bond counsel that are in coordination on this item.
Okay. Mr. English, you got anything you want to add to this?
No, it's pretty similar to what we've done in the past, so.
Yeah. Well, I think the biggest change from what has been done in the past, I mean, this is my first rodeo with Squash, all of us except for Commissioner Wilder. It's very broad project list. It doesn't get into a lot of specifics, which sometimes handcuffs us, but anyway. So,
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a motion that we go ahead and sign this resolution and move forward.
have a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I have a motion to approve the resolution as presented. Jason?
Commissioner Watson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder,
Yes.
Chairman Allen.
Yes. Again, a lot of work going into this.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, Alan arrived on the scene with the costume with a cape and really jumped in
Can I see a picture?
in the middle of this process. Of course, Ricardo's and his team have had a significant impact on this as well. But between myself and Alan's diligent work at the end, I mean, Alan spiked it across the finish line for tonight because we were working on it with City Hall as late as Saturday morning, I think. So, okay.
They're not gonna
So
change.
anyway, I just wanted to say thanks.
Don't anticipate any changes to the agreement.
No, we've got it in writing that everybody's good.
All right. Thank you. Okay, moving along. Presentation from McGriff and consideration to approve insurance services. Ricardo, you can stick around and shake our hands, or you can leave. No, you got a long way to go, don't you?
That's only 2 hours. Not me.
Mr. Boatwright, good to see you again. It's been a long time.
Absolutely. Thank y'all for letting me be here. And I was told to stand up here, so I made sure I made camera. So that's,
Mr. Piper will be happy.
absolutely, absolutely. What I've given you is a little summary of where we are with the insurance renewal, and then there's some information on what we did to get here. Looking at the 21-22 renewal proposal, we are up 558,000 was the total last year when we were going into this process. This year, the total is 590,892. Okay. The line items that are up are mainly the liability lines, and that is a product of the litigious nature of our society and insurance companies trying to figure out how to control it. So as everybody knows, we had a substantial property loss, and Travelers, because they were trying to do us a good job, but they had to get some money in some places, they did not change our property premium, and that's with $1 million property loss. So it goes to Travelers nod that they did a good job there. As far as the workers' compensation goes, that's the biggest one line item. Our experience modifier this year is gone to 1.61. Okay, and basically that a 1.0 is a flat line. Less than that, you get a credit. Over that is a debit. So we're basically getting a 0.61% debit because of our experience. But the good news is, this is the highest point. Next year, because of a bad year falling off, it will start to come down. So that is very good news for the future with regards to the workers' compensation. Let's go to the second page and go through some of the information that I just wanted to point out. The renewal from a rate standpoint is up 4% year over year. The other increases are due to exposure increases, whether it's vehicles, whether it's payrolls, that kind of thing. Okay. The workers' compensation we talked about, our payrolls are up 2% year over year. And again, the experience modification, looking at it, it's going to come down to somewhere, my calculation is about 1.35. So that's about 18% decrease next year, which is a good thing. The property is flat, and that is, again, Jason's been a big help getting the fire loss handled. It is not completed, but that is because the payment's not completed. We are waiting on one item, and when it comes in, and I think COVID, is paying a part of that. When it comes in and is paid for, then we'll be able to wrap that claim up. But the total on that is $996,809 currently, and we expect that to be about what it finalizes at. Automobile, you look, our increase there is 10%. Our loss ratio over 5 years is 97%. So that's a tough line of business for every insurance carrier, and so that's just a little information. I wanted to go through and tell you, we did go to a fair amount of other markets this year. And the reason I did is because I wanted to make sure that I had ammunition. Travelers, I felt like they were going to be good to us, but I wasn't sure. Okay, so I had to make sure that I protected the county. And so we did go to the marketplace. As far as the next best option, it's a lot higher. I did have a company come in and offer to do the workers' compensation at a lower rate than where Travelers was, which helped me twist Travelers down on the work comp. So, but again, that was really protecting myself and the county just to make sure, I knew what was there, and if Travelers was out of whack somewhere, it would help me. Any questions on this page?
If for some reason the automobile, the number of units, if we can get that decreased, will it make a huge difference?
Yes.
If we can get it decreased in the next, if 10 vehicles come off the fleet within the next 2 weeks, will that help?
Absolutely, and so you understand, when you add a vehicle during the year, that vehicle's prorated and added, and the same thing happens if you take them off. Okay, so if we take vehicles off, it's gonna have a direct effect on the premium. Okay.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So at what point, when we have salvage vehicles, are we maintaining, are they counting towards our total? I mean,
If they're in surplus, are
if
they
they're in
count?
surplus vehicles, if we got excess vehicles that we know we're mobilizing for some type of sale, are they on our list?
Yes, I mean, the ones that, the Board of Commissioners vehicles, yes. So in other words, as soon as we have a strict policy of one in, one out. So whether it's waiting to be surplused or not, it's not insured and it's not tagged. So I don't know what our current list of, it was not many. We don't really have many.
I haven't looked at that since
We-
I've come back.
Mhm.
I have on pretty good authority that you're about to get a more than a good handful
Really?
for surplus. So as soon as we take the tags off them,
Correct.
we're good to go.
That's right.
Who's communicating that? Who's communicating with them to take that off our list?
Our county clerk communicates with.
That's right,
Yeah.
with my staff.
Mhm.
And, we, from time to time during the year, pass along lists that are passed along to the various departments so that they check and make sure the vehicle list is correct and active.
So you getting something back saying, yeah, this
Absolutely,
is correct?
absolutely, yes. And again, the same process happens when we go through renewal every year. 2.5 months ahead of time, the departments get the list, they go through it. Same way on equipment, okay? The equipment list, the departments get it, we verify that equipment's still there, we look at the values.
Okay, so we may have a slight change.
And again, that, you know, if it happens a week into it, you know, we're gonna get 51 weeks of premium back on every vehicle that's taken on. Okay.
When does this take effect?
The 29th,
July?
2 days.
We got some work to do tomorrow. Okay.
Then the only other thing I'd put together so you guys kind of have an idea is a summary of losses and premium for the last 5 years, just to give you an idea of where the county has been from a loss standpoint and a premium standpoint. And, you know, I will be honest, I am very, very happy with the Travelers renewal this year based on our loss experience. And Travelers did a great job on the fire claim, but they also haven't punished us, you know, and based on the market, this was a year that they could have.
Anybody have any other questions? So Jason, you need a, I'm sorry.
I said, oh, I'm good to go.
So we just
We would
need a
need a
motion
motion to
to
approve the renewal.
Approve the renewal. Okay, so staff's recommendation is to approve the renewal as presented.
Absolutely.
Okay. Gentlemen, you've heard staff recommendation. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the staff recommendation for the renewal of insurance services.
Is there a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the renewal of our insurance. Jason?
Commissioner Watson?
Yes.
Commissioner Ellington?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilder?
Yes.
Chairman Allen?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Bowman.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, we do have an executive session on the agenda for tonight, but we'll go over comments. And when we come out of executive session, there's no anticipation that we'll be voting on anything. So with that, Jason?
Mr. Chairman, as Alan and I were kind of in between the close of business and the beginning of the meeting going over some of the items for the August work session, if the board has any items, if you would, we're starting to build that agenda. So if you would go ahead and forward anything
That's
you would
next
like.
Wednesday.
It is.
All right.
It's coming.
Next
soon.
Wednesday, 9 o'clock at the airport.
Correct.
So is it a pretty lengthy?
It will be pretty lengthy, yeah.
So,
Some of the items that we have already, and I forgot to bring the list in, with, but we'll be discussing and finalizing the county retirement. We'll be presenting the draft resolution for the change to the homestead exemptions. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from staff, discussed with DOR and a few other of our sister communities. So I think we've got a really good process to move forward. I think we did want to try to mention or have a discussion about the potential for procuring consulting services for our redistricting. And there's a couple more items which I'm failing to remember, but it'll be a pretty heavy lift. But if there's any other items you think you want us to cover. And then the only other thing I'll mention, and I know other commissioners will probably mention here in their comments, but we do have a meeting scheduled with GFL leadership for later this week, for Thursday. I, like many of the other folks here, got a number of complaints about poor service from GFL last week. I want to say that I counted, I think, 13 different incidences that required attention of myself or our utilities director or other staff. Just to let you know that we've documented all those incidences, and we'll be presenting those to GFL staff to try to get some kind of resolution for the. And to be totally fair, I do understand that they're struggling for personnel like we are, but it doesn't mitigate the fact that the job's not getting done properly. So I just let the board know it was Top of the radar last week. I spent a lot of time dealing with complaints directly with some of your constituents, and then indirectly with staff and others. And if that's something that we need to have on the work session agenda, that's maybe potentially just let me know if you want to have GFL staff there for that as well. And with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks for tonight.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. I heard on the radio today they found some of our equipment on the side of the road somewhere, the stuff that got taken from the, had you heard of that?
Work camp.
Yes, I want to say that was several weeks ago.
Really? Yeah, I heard about it on the radio today. Dave, you gotta get faster, man. So we recovered some of the stuff.
Yes, yeah, someone took a trailer and a couple of weed eaters.
Yeah. And that shut down our crew for a couple of days
It
while
did.
that was being investigated.
It did. Mhm.
Okay. Mr. English?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to offer up a vote of confidence with McGriff and Associates and Travelers, because we have worked hand in hand with some litigation pieces with both of them, and have been very satisfied. The line of communication's open, and we always seem to get everything resolved, so looking forward to working with you guys even more.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Watson?
I don't have anything tonight.
Mr. Young?
Well, you know, I don't know if the work session, if time's going to allow to discuss our issues with GFL. I have received numerous calls this week and numerous calls throughout the month. And I guess as a commissioner, you know, I realize that, you know, I sympathize with their issues, but ultimately we contract for service. So it's a legal contract. We're bound to it. They're bound to it. We pay them on time. We expect the Upson County citizens to pay us on time. But in turn, they expect to receive the service, and we're just not getting the service that we're paying for from GFL. And you know, they came to us, they came to public meeting, and they've stated their issues. And while I can emphasize that, it's unexcusable. I'm disgusted with the situation. When people are calling me constantly complaining I didn't get my trash picked up, or my trash can's on the different side of the road. They come up with a new rule. You got to put your trash can across the road from where you live. I would like for us to review that contract. I need solutions, not say excuses from GFL, and I'm just expressing that to you because I know you're going to meet with it. Probably would be better if I didn't attend that meeting. But something's got to change, or I won't be advocating for a change, and I won't be pushing this board hard to make a change. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Jones?
Ditto. I appreciate everybody coming. The only other thing I want to say tonight is we're going backwards on this COVID thing. The state thing was 13% today. I know it's a choice to get vaccinated or not, but we got to do better for everybody, not just yourself, for the guy next to you, the guy across the room, everybody. We got to get this. We were almost in control, and now it's going the other way. So I want you to think about it, see what you can do. That's it.
Mr. Wilder?
Enough said. I'm done. I don't have anything to say.
Okay. I'll be brief. So on the GFL thing, absolutely, you know, something's got to give, and we've given enough. On Commissioner Jones's point about the COVID vaccine, just so Jason and I had a discussion, I think it was last week, about our staff. I think our staff has done a pretty good job about getting vaccinated, but there may be some innovative things that we can do with our staff, Jason's staff. So we might want to talk about that a little bit at the work session.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because the evidence, I believe, shows that if you're vaccinated, you're probably better protected, and we need people to come to work.
Desperately.
And given the nature of the business of the work that we're in, we need to protect our community as well. So there might be something that we can do to possibly incentivize some of the staff to get the vaccine. So we'll see. Doug, I rode down Jefferson Road today, and I was a happy man. And then I went so far as I said, well, if that got done, let me ride down Harp Road. And I was a happy man almost. They're making progress there, so thank you.
Well, as Commissioner Watson knows, we have some other properties we don't have the progress on, so
Well,
we have still some horrible properties out there. But
interviewing
good
the
news
code.
is on code enforcement is we've got some very promising candidates.
You're
We
interviewing
still
them
have
this week?
3 more to do. So I think we're in very good shape within the next few weeks to have a couple of folks hired. And that's without interviewing the 3 that we still have to go. So today was a good day for interviewing code enforcement officer candidates.
Well, seal the deal.
Very good.
We're getting there.
But get the right ones.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
right now, with a pulse is the right one. No. No, I saw that today and I appreciate it. I get to call those folks back and say, hey, you called and told me there was a problem. Problem's gone. I haven't heard from you. So I'll call them back. But thank you. That was a big eyesore. So with that, any other by the ways? All right. So as discussed earlier, we have an executive session for property and litigation. So is there a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Okay. We're going to executive. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight.
Thank y'all.
Well, I need to.
Think about getting your shot, gang out.
I need to mute Paul.
Gentlemen, we're still live.
Everybody
so-
ought to know I got my shot.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate serving you all.
Photographic.
Thank you. Thank you for serving y'all. Thank you.
stay back here and wait for John.
All right, so out of executive session, back in regular session. There being no other businesses or a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
we're adjourned. Thank you.